Hello, Moonbeams, and welcome back to the podcast. This is Mystic Moon School with Donna Cass, and today we are here to discuss the Aries Solar Eclipse that is happening on March 29th, 2025. And this is a big one. Big endings, big beginnings, and we're going to get into all of it. There's a lot going on in the skies, and we're all feeling it. For this Aries solar eclipse, I am titling this podcast The End of an Era and the Beginning of Our New Timelines. And I've really had been doing some research intuitively following some of my connections and understanding of Chiron and Aries, and we had a really powerful Chiron and Aries solar eclipse last April. And so when I say this is an end of an era, I will get into exactly what I mean by that. And I don't just mean the last 18 months when we had the nodes in Libra and Aries, although that is a big part of it. For me, as an astrologer, I'm going back even further. And so we're going to kind of discuss that today and trace that timeline back a little bit so that you can see what you've moved through, how you've grown and evolved, and what you've healed. Okay, so we are in Aries season. So happy birthday to all my Aries people out there. If you are wanting to have a chart reading, but you're not exactly sure which one is for you, and it happens to be your birthday month, then treat yourself to a solar return chart reading. Every year on our birthdays, we have a new chart. We have a whole new layer of energies that we're working with for that year. And the solar return chart really gets into that. Everything changes, except for the sun, of course, right? Because that comes back to the exact degree point in the sky to when you were born and in your natal chart. But everything else pretty much changes in the chart each and every year. It's interesting how there may be some similarities when we have other returns in the chart. But by and large, you're getting a whole new chart each and every year on your birthday. So if you are interested, you can certainly treat yourself if this is your birthday month. But I've done solar return readings for people when it's been several months into their birth year, their new birthday year, and it really still resonates. So you can give that to yourself or someone else. Just hop on over to my website, and that is mysticmoonschool.com. You can see all of the other chart readings and coaching sessions that I offer, and grab yourself one of those. Okay. If the times don't really work for you on my calendar, you can always shoot me an email and we'll figure it out together. Also, just want to remind everyone that I have my free guide to living by the moon phases on my website in my shop. And that is just a free digital download that I've created for you. You can print that out. And it really does help guide you each and every month on the different moon phases that we move through with Mama Moon and how it affects our energy and how we can align with it instead of like forcing against it, right? And so then you'll be more in the flow of the cyclical nature that is really how we're supposed to live, We're not meant to just go, 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 right? We're meant to be productive, yes, but also rest and also make time for inspiration and meditation and ideas and then putting things into action and planning and all the different things, right? So this guide will certainly help you if you are interested in that. Okay, so let's get into all that we're going to discuss today with this Aries solar eclipse. So what I want to do is I want to go back in time a little bit, okay? So first I want to harken back to a year ago. And that would be on, let me see, where did I write this? It was on April 8th, 2024, that we had a Aries solar eclipse that was conjunct Chiron in the sky. That was a really big deal. I'm going to try to link that video here for you in the description box. But that was a really big deal, that solar eclipse conjunct Chiron. In fact, I was kind of blown away that that was, the first year that I was doing YouTube podcasts, and that podcast video got like, I mean, it got so many views and comments, and I think that that was a really big deal for all of us. And so while this Aries solar eclipse is not conjunct Chiron in the sky now at this time, I've been kind of piecing together or collecting the breadcrumbs that, what I call the divine breadcrumbs, the connections and the signs and the symbols that the universe very gently leaves for us to follow the trail. And so if we look back to April 8th, when we had this Chiron and Aries solar eclipse, this was a big moment for us to really have conscious awareness around our healing journey. Many people were awakening at this time in ways that they had not before. They were being shown in a very blatant way what needs to be healed. What was coming up that really needs to be healed on a very individual basis. And also for those of us who back in, let me see, did I write that down? Back in like 2018, when Chiron moved into the sign of Aries, many of us out there really began in earnest our healing journey, our awakening journey. And so it was a look back to how much we had really healed and worked on, and all that inner work, and looking back several years saying, wow, a couple years before even the pandemic, how I began this healing journey, this awakening journey in Aries, the self, right? And who am I now today? April 8th, 2024, we couldn't even recognize ourselves, right? Like we were not the same version of who we had once been. And so I do feel that this Aries solar eclipse on Saturday, March 29th, is the end of this era where all of our inner wounds, our core wounds of self-abandonment, self-rejection, self-worth or lack thereof, right? Not knowing our worth, over-giving, people-pleasing, all of these things that we were very much awakened to back starting in 2018, whether we realized it or not. The seeds were being planted then. And so we are really now wrapping up all of that healing work, that inner work that we've been doing since that time, since 2018, April of 2018. If you can think back to April 2018, can you remember anything significant that had happened in that month? Did you have a realization about relationships in your life? Were relationships ending? And when I say relationships, of course I mean romantic, but not only, right? Friendships, significant others in your life, a work relationship, any partnership of any kind. Because remember, the Aries Libra axis is the juxtaposition of self and the other. And we have been working on this since 2018 in earnest. And so this Aries solar eclipse this week is a culmination point. It is a moment for us to stand in our centered sense of self, of who we are today, looking back on all of these years, like 7, almost 8 years now, right? And looking at our journey in this time period. What have we lost? What have we gained? What was awakened within us that we didn't even know was there? What have we been consciously, with self-awareness, working on to heal within ourself? That is Aries, the self, first and foremost. And so if you can take some time at this solar eclipse, and remember, a solar eclipse is a new moon, new beginnings, Aries, the first sign in the zodiac, beginning the whole new astrological year, right? At the vernal equinox on March 20th, the spring equinox, it's not spring for everyone in the world, right? Only the northern hemisphere, but it is the marking of the beginning of the new astrological year. So Aries is a beginning point. A solar eclipse is a new moon, a beginning point. But what do I always say? For anyone who's worked with me and has been listening to these podcasts for a while, it's like I repeat myself all the time, right? I always use the metaphor of that swinging door in a restaurant that leads you from the dining room to the kitchen, right? It's swinging. It's closed and open at the same time. It's always closing and it's always opening. That's the nature of beginnings and endings. They are not separate from one another. And so although we are culminating and ending an era of, from when Chiron moved into Aries back in 2018, we are ending this cycle now. And next year, okay, June 19th of 2026, Chiron will leave Aries for good in this lifetime for most of us, okay, and move into Taurus. And so back on April 17th, 2018 is when Chiron moved into Aries, and now we're talking about a whole generation of us we've been having our Chiron return. And whatever the wounds, the core wounds that were inflicted in our childhood were unearthed and reawakened back in 2018. And we have been working and healing and doing the inner work for all of these years. And the culmination of that, the true ending of Chiron and Aries, will happen next June 2026. So this solar eclipse in Aries is like we're almost there, okay? When you look at the transit of Chiron and Aries for 9 years, I mean almost a decade of our life, my goodness, we're at the tail end of this. Okay, we're at the tail end because next June, we're very close, only 1 year left of this work. And so remember, when Chiron is going to reach those final degrees of Aries, which mark the graduation, the culmination degrees, the mastery, we are then going to have like a tremendous weight lifted next June when Chiron moves into Taurus. And then Chiron will be working with a whole other generation of people on healing their core wounds. And they're going to be working with those energies for about 7 years. So this Aries solar eclipse is not in a vacuum. It is part of this whole cycle that I believe has started back in 2018. And so while it is an end of an era, and not only with that Chiron moving into Aries in 2018, but then remember the last 18 months, we have been, all of us, whether you have Chiron in Aries or not, right? We have all been working with these Aries and Libra energies because the nodes of fate have been in Libra, the South Node, what we're letting go of in terms of relationship dynamics, and what we are stepping into, the North Node in Aries. And so for the last 18 months, it was like, how do I want to describe this? It was really like, okay, let's put the microscope on this. Yeah, we've been working on this, okay, with Chiron and Aries. Everyone has been working on it. People who have natal Chiron and Aries have been working with it very, very, very personally. Hello, I'm one of them. Thank you very much. But all of us out there have been re-examining our relationships. Are they in balance? Where have I been abandoning myself? How do I deal or even perceive rejection? How does that affect me? Where do these wounds even come from in my own life, right? And how am I learning how to heal it from within? And so many, many relationships have been severed in the last several years, especially, particularly within the last 18 months. For those of you out there listening where you've known for many years that your most significant relationships were not supporting you. They were not good for you. You really did not feel like you could be your true authentic self, that you could be seen, that you could be supported, that you could be in a true partnership. In the last 18 months, they've all been falling apart, haven't they? Whether that's by your doing or by their doing. And so this Aries solar eclipse is this moment in time where we can stand, if this is a good visual for you, stand in mountain pose, where you are just standing. If you have the opportunity to go outside, stand with your bare feet on the earth and stand in mountain pose where your feet are flat on the ground, your spine is straight, you're engaging your core, you're engaging all your muscles, your arms are straight down with your hands extended downwards like you're reaching energetically to connect with the earth, closing your eyes, and imagine that fiery energy from Aries beaming down to your crown chakra, moving all through your body and grounding you in the earth, that you have a strong, grounded, centered sense of yourself now. Because we are going to really, truly be seeing the tangible manifestations of a new timeline for each and every one of us. Now, when Chiron moves into Taurus next, not this June, next June, 2026, that is going to be the true culmination for those of us working with these Chiron and Aries energies. But this solar eclipse is activating the final pieces of the puzzle that need to be put into place. Whether that's some wrapping up some healing, seeing some remnants of things that we can still tidy up and work on. Maybe there is forgiveness for self, forgiveness for others. And there is compassion that can enter into this last final run around the track, if you will, before Chiron moves into Taurus next June. But make no mistake, this is a real culmination energy. And I feel that everyone out there listening knows, what you're just done with now at this point, where you're not even willing to engage anymore in certain dynamics with certain people, certain situations, and you realize that there's got to be a new way. And if you haven't totally figured out what that way is, set that intention now. Ask your higher self to guide you. What is the best way for me to move forward to honor myself and my own needs and my own growth, but without harming others, right? Because in Aries, in its highest expressions, is a leader, first and foremost. And Aries, yes, Aries can be an advocate, a warrior even, but I also always think of Aries as the peaceful warrior. And for those of you who do or have done yoga, this pose is really challenging. It is not an easy pose to hold. And it does require groundedness and strength, balance, and centeredness. And so the peaceful warrior, there is nothing soft or fragile or weak about the peaceful warrior. In fact, the one who will defend peace requires such a high vibration that you do not get pulled down into the warring energy, right? Where there must be bloodshed and fighting and a winner and a loser. No. We're not talking about that. We're going beyond that energy. And Aries is the athlete too. And so if we look at that archetype, and I keep seeing, even when I was thinking about this podcast, I kept seeing a track runner, someone who is so fast and so determined and is not concerned with the other runners in the race. They're just running their own path. They're staying in their own lane. This is Aries energy. It's yourself, nobody else. Doesn't concern anybody else. You stay in your lane and you follow your path and what you know to be right for yourself. And you're not worried about what anybody else has to say or think about it. You're not worried about anyone else's influence. This is all Aries energy in the highest expressions. So, which leads me into something incredibly significant and powerful that is happening the day after this solar eclipse, which is Neptune moving into Aries. And now Neptune is going to ingress into Aries the day after this solar eclipse. There's no coincidences, right? We know this. There are never any coincidences. It's all divine timing. But this is also why I am saying this is the end of an era, because Neptune, although Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces a little bit before finally permanently moving into Aries. But this is the first moment of this, though. This is the big leap forward. Neptune has been hanging out at 29 degrees of Pisces for so freaking long now. I don't know about you all, but I have literally been like just completely having to surrender to the uncertainty, the fogginess, the illusions and fears that have been coming up for me in these past few months. Because Neptune has been hanging out at that 29th degree of Pisces. And I, for one, am super eager for this ingress into Aries, because Neptune in Aries, while it is absolutely going to focus on the collective. So, you know, again, like it's just like I said earlier about it, the endings and the beginnings are always one and the same. You can't have one without the other. So while we are wrapping up so much of this Aries energy that we've been working with on strengthening our sense of self and understanding boundaries for ourselves and healing those core wounds of self with that Aries energy, and that's kind of a culmination and a graduation with the solar eclipse. Neptune moving into Aries is a beginning. And as I was saying before, yes, this is going to affect the collective, all of humanity on the world stage. But you know what? I'm not going to go into that in this podcast. And that has actually been part of my own recalibration of my own energies in these last few weeks, especially this last month. Mars has been pretty, Mars, March has been pretty intense. And so whatever's going to play out on the world stage, I don't have control over that. What I do have control over is Aries, my sense of self. And so I want to just talk with a minute or two with you about Neptune in Aries and how it will affect you on a personal level. Because although it is an outer planet and it is going to be affecting the collective and all of humanity in the world stage, and yes, there are many astrologers out there who have been tracing back the history of when this happened in our country, in the US and other places in the world, and that's all well and good, but there's a lot of doom predicting, okay? And that is not why I'm here. And so my focus is on Neptune in Aries in its highest expressions. And that is the beginning of our new timelines. That's what I'm talking about here. So this Aries solar eclipse, remember, eclipses, something is hidden. Okay? The seeds are planted in the earth and we can't see the growth that's happening in the soil, in the darkness. But make no mistake, the seeds are germinating. And that is what happens at an eclipse. And so because the sun is being eclipsed, something will be illuminated to us when the moon moves past and we can see the sun again. So whatever these seeds are for you, I'm going to throw some keywords out if you want to jot them down and be on the lookout. Because Neptune is unconditional love. It is the divine heart. It is the divine energy of creativity. I mean, we are all creator beings. Every last one of us. We have forgotten that, many of us. And we seem to have adopted this really narrow understanding of what creativity is, right? Like, well, yeah, I'm not creative. I can't draw or paint, or I don't play a musical instrument, right? Or I don't do anything creative. Guess what? If you're a human being, you're a creator being. You're creating in every moment. If you are alive and you are conscious, you are a creator, and you are creating your reality with your thoughts and how you feel and your belief systems. You are creating your world, right? This is the art of manifestation and the law of attraction. And so Neptune, the planet of creativity, is moving into Aries. And so Aries being the self, right? We are all going to reach a new level of our awakening journeys, of seeing ourselves once again as creator beings, of finding those creative outlets. And you know what? That can show up in like infinite forms, infinite. It doesn't have to be that you're going to go take an art class. Maybe you're going to write code, right? Maybe you're going to build something in your backyard. Maybe you're going to, start writing. I mean, these are just like a couple of things that pop in my head, but literally, maybe you're going to start learning about the law of attraction and how we are each accountable for our own experiences, what we're calling into our everyday lives, right? And once we start to reawaken to the laws of the universe and how they work and how we can work with them instead of against them in a very conscious way, that then begins to shift our whole experience here. And our new, our new timelines begin emerging even faster. We start to see things shifting and changing at the ground level in our lives. And so this Neptune ingressing into the sign of Aries, I really feel is going to be a new era of creativity, of oneness, of us coming together as our true, authentic selves. Aries, our self. We're not hiding our true selves anymore. We are able to be our true self and honor that in another. Neptune will blur boundaries. That is true. But in the certain correct, right context, that is what's needed. In other words, we want to blur the boundaries between things that separate us as human beings. We want to blur the boundary between honoring life on this planet. In other words, being a human is not more important than being a tree or a lion or a bee or a snake or a blade of grass, right? The oneness that Neptune offers us can elevate us in our consciousness and our vibration. And when each and every one of us, Aries, right, the self, is able to shift into a higher vibration, into a higher level of consciousness, that's when everything out in the world begins to change. Now, the other thing that really struck me when I was creating the thumbnail for this podcast, for this picture here that you're looking at, is when I chose this glyph of Aries, the first thing that I saw when I put it on the page was that there are two timelines, and they are really truly diverging. They are divergent at this point. They are parallel to one another. And of course, this is not showing a parallel in the picture, but the divergence is what I saw when I looked at the Aries glyph. And whereas we were very muddled together in our vibrations and all mixed in and unclear, as we move forward through time, the timelines, the vibrations, the two main groups in humanity have now diverged from one another. And it's really quite simple. You are either of a vibration of fear or you are of a vibration of love. And when I say love, I mean being of service, of oneness, of healing, of growth, of community. And fear and love, they are not able to coexist. One is going to rule out the other. And I'm going to be really, blunt and honest here. The catabolic or destructive energy of fear is stronger in some ways than love. And we can see that playing out on the planet. However, there is a big but here. That only has that level of power if you are unaware. And so Neptune in Aries is going to shift that. Neptune in Aries is going to awaken people that you have a choice. You yourself as an individual, Aries, must choose. Now, I'll just give you an example from my own experience that while, pretty much my whole life, I've been on this trajectory of optimism, service, love over fear, doesn't mean I was immune to fear. I'm still a human being and I live in a world where it's rampant. But very recently, as I was saying earlier, how the month of March has been really intense. If you live in the US especially, but anywhere, honestly, I don't think anyone's immune to this. The fear is insidious. And it is really trying so desperately to seep into any little crack that we allow. And that is one of the challenges that I myself have been facing, because I am aware, but some way, shape, or form, that fear it keeps finding its way, seeping back in. It's like there's a leak, right? And it keeps dripping into my experience. Now, I want to talk with you a little bit about where this may be showing up for you, and it's connected to this Venus retrograde and now Mercury retrograde that we are in right now at the time of this Aries solar eclipse. When Venus goes retrograde, for me personally, it's always a wild ride, okay? Because in my natal chart, I have Venus very, very close to my sun. And so whenever Venus goes retrograde in the sky, I feel it very intensely, very personally. And she is always unearthing deeper layers for me to examine, reflect, review, and really look at a deeper level where, there are things that I still need to heal. And the way she does that, when Venus retrogrades, the way it plays out for me is the fears come up. They rise up to the surface, not to take me down, and I understand that now, but to show me where I still need to direct some healing. And so remember, Venus is about relationships, all relationships. Yes, romantic, significant others, but not only that, your relationships with women in general, your relationships with beauty, your relationship with money, pleasure. Venus covers all of this. And so if in the past few weeks, you've been struggling, fears around money and the energy of lack has been coming up for you, feelings of loneliness or not being able to find that person that you long for, perhaps. Uh, Feelings around your own beauty, aging, your body, anything. Feelings around pleasure. All of this could be coming up for you and showing itself to you in your fears and your doubt and your insecurities. And so if this resonates for you, please take a moment and say, oh my goodness, okay, yeah, I've been struggling with this, for the last few weeks, and now I know why, because I can choose. I can choose. Aries, you get to choose what you want to heal or what you want to just let the doubts and the insecurities and the fears to overtake you. Excuse me. And with Mercury retrograding at the same time with Venus, it's really showing up in your mind, right? Your thoughts, your beliefs, being able to reflect on this. Maybe get out your journal or start a journal, right? Or even just jot it down on a piece of paper and then burn it, right? Aries, use that fire. Use that fire, just burn it away. But, we're being given the opportunity here to see these things, to let them come up to the surface, to choose from a very self-conscious and aware place and say, no, you know what? I'm going to shift this. This is not healthy for me to walk around with this lack mindset, right? This is not serving me to always want to be with a partner when that's just not what is happening right now in my life. So shouldn't I just love every day that I, Aries, get to live my human life and take my focus off just trying to find another? Or if I feel like I look in the mirror and I don't like what I see, really? Is that serving me? Where does that come from? Because I only get this one body in this life. So maybe I should start to love it, right? Whatever it is for you. I'm just throwing out some examples, but this Aries solar eclipse, along with the Venus and Mercury retrogrades, is really helping us, supporting us. Yes, maybe challenging us, but you're ready for it. Okay? And this is all working together. These aspects and these transits, nothing is in a vacuum. These planets are not working solely on their own and each delivering a different energy. No, this is all divinely orchestrated and integrated for our growth and evolution at a soul level. So, this is how I'm seeing all of it. Now, I want you to know that in a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we are going to have Venus and Mercury moving direct, and then the planet Mars is finally going to be moving out of Cancer, which, by the way, that has been working with us on a very deep emotional level as well. And when Mars moves into Leo, fire, right? Open-hearted leadership. Oh boy, we're going to have Mars into Leo, Venus moving direct, still in Pisces, which she just moved into, I believe, today when I'm recording this. So you may already feel a little shift because when Venus is in Aries, she's really uncomfortable. But when she moves into Pisces, it's kind of like her jam, right? She's exalted in Pisces and she's like, okay, now I'm comfy cozy again. Even though she's still retrograde, it's softer. She's more in the flow. She's in her feminine energy. And so lean into that. But then come mid-April, and of course I will be talking about it, next month when I cover the lunations next month. But just know, you guys, we only have a few weeks left. So really tap into this energy. What can you really see and heal now? Because come mid-April, towards the end of April, We're going to feel a huge shift of momentum forward. So imagine that you're at a retreat, and this is a time of introspection and reflection and quiet. It's a time of healing. And that time is going to end soon, because come mid to end of April, it's going to be time to move into action, integrating into your life in tangible ways. Okay, so if you can kind of look at these next couple of few weeks like this, where it's going to start to move forward. So what are the real golden nuggets? What are the gems of this time? How can I really maximize the intuitive hits that I'm receiving? Maybe I'll try meditating a little bit more, or journaling, or getting out in nature with the intention to connect with my higher self. Because remember, Aries, the self, is connected to your higher self too, right? When you look at astrology in the spiritual perspective as well, which I often do, it's the lens through which I see everything. And so this Aries solar eclipse, your higher self has got these beautiful messages for you. You may not be able to see it right now, but open up to what they are, and they will soon be revealed. Remember, I said that these are the seeds that are planted in the dark soil at the eclipse, but as the moon moves on, and she moves into Taurus, then all of a sudden we get grounded, and those seeds start to sprout, and we start to see the divine breadcrumbs that are leading us forward. Each and every one of us, our higher selves, are guiding us. So that is really all of the main points that I feel are unfolding for us this week. And remember, into, I want to say, the next couple weeks, okay? Because this is all, again, integrated. We have the Aries solar eclipse. We have the Venus retrograde now in Pisces, where she's flowing into her feminine energies. She's surrendering, releasing, letting go. She is finding her flow. She is able to receive these messages so much easier of what her next steps are going to be. Mercury retrograde is really, if you set the intention, you can open up to those messages from your higher self, Aries. Open up your mind, Mercury, right? And receive those messages to reflect on. And then we have Neptune moving into Aries the day after the eclipse. And so set that intention. I want to open up my crown chakra to receive those higher messages from Neptune right down into my own crown chakra, Aries, and ground down into my deepest knowing. Because come April 17th, it's go time, okay? Everything will be moving forward. Mars will be in Leo. We will be stepping into our passionate, inspirational, heart-led leadership. Don't worry about what's going on around the world, okay? Stay in your own lane, Aries. Hold your vibration of how you can be of service. What lights you up? What's your passion, Aries? Advocate for that. Stop fighting against what you don't want and start fighting for what you do want, and create from that place, right? That's that Neptune in Aries. So I hope that this has brought you like a context, a whole context for how I see all of these energies working together towards our healing, our growth, our evolution. But I really want to stress that we have to hold ourselves accountable, Aries. It's not anybody else's fault. Whatever's happening out there, whatever happens with the other people or the government or the systems and the structures, just stay in your own lane and work on and focus on what you can change for the better. If every single person did that, that's how we change things, literally, tangibly. So refine your focus. How can you be of service to yourself, but to the larger world, the larger community that you find yourself in? And how do you decide that? Well, what are you passionate about? Okay? And whatever you're passionate about, stop railing against how that is being persecuted and shift your energy from focusing on the persecution and shift your energy towards how you're going to create something new. That's how we take our power back, Aries. That's how we do it. We don't focus on the destructive, catabolic energy. When we focus on it, when we share it, when we complain about it, when we get overwhelmingly depressed or we feel despair, guess what? The fear is then winning. The destructive catabolic energy is then winning because now you're not in a position to create. So stop focusing on the destructiveness. Start focusing on the creativeness, Neptune in Aries. There's no coincidence here that this is happening after the Aries solar eclipse. You've been doing your healing work. You've been doing it for years now. Have strength. Have confidence in yourself. Step into your own leadership in your own life from a place of passion and creativity and being of service in this life. And this is how we move forward. Both individually, we take our power back, and then collectively. Okay, so let's see here. What do we got? My questions for reflection here are: what within me, about me, is finished? What aspects of myself have I outgrown? And that's what I've been talking about at the beginning of this podcast when Chiron moved into Aries back in April of 2018. So you can look as far back as that. You can look back over the last 2 years, whatever resonates for you. When I reflect back to who I was 8 years ago, a year and a half ago, what experiences have given me the opportunity to grow and evolve, and how am I living from this new sense of myself? Can I advocate for myself and my needs without feeling guilt? This is one of the things that a lot of us are still working on, and it's okay. We are a work in progress, right? Just because we have the conscious awareness of something doesn't mean that the old programming doesn't seep back in every time we try to assert ourselves, Aries, right? And so just be gentle with yourself and forgiving. And if that guilt shows up where you're like, oh, geez, I just advocated for myself and now I feel bad, sit with that and say, you know what? No, I don't need to feel bad. That's an old program telling me that really what I need to do is abandon myself for the other. No. Those energies die hard. So just recognize it. Say thank you for the reminder, but I'm ready to put you in a box up on the shelf. I don't need to carry this guilt with me anymore. I'm burning it away. Aries, fire. And what do I want to grow and practice within myself over the next year? And that could be a really helpful exercise to do to help us move forward. And it could be in increments, right? Like, what do I want to focus on for April? What do I want to focus on this spring? and or whatever resonates for you. So yeah, so I hope that this podcast has given you like a macro view of how we've all been working at ourselves really truly for the last like 8 years in earnest. How far you've come. Please give yourself a hug, give yourself a pat on the back, and really love on yourself for how far you have come, how much you've grown, how much you've healed. It's so important. And now let's look to the future of where do we want to focus our energy, and how can we shut out more and more and more of those little droplets of fear that keep finding their way into our experience. And the more you do that, the less, and the more you raise your own vibration and make conscious choices that you're just not going to give your focus and attention to low vibrational energy and destructive energy, the more you're going to bolster your own vibration, and then you really truly solidify that timeline that you're moving towards now, and you begin to create a new experience. You begin to create a new life. So I hope that inspires you. I hope that empowers you. You know, that's always my intention with this podcast. I want to thank you so, so much for being here, for listening. I'm wishing you a beautiful solar eclipse in Aries. I will be back again. Our next lunation is going to be the Virgo full moon. Oh, sorry, wrong calendar. It's going to be a full moon in Libra, which, by the way, April is a huge month for Venus energies, and I'm really excited for it. And both the lunations next month are going to be in Libra and Taurus, which are both Venus ruled. And so we're gonna have a lot of Venus energy. She's gonna be moving forward, and she's gonna really be filtering through her energies at the new and the full moons next month. So I hope you'll join me for those. If you like this content, please hit the like button. Please leave a comment. It really does help my channel to grow on YouTube and reach more people who will feel supported. I love you all so much, and I will see you soon under the moon. Bye-bye for now.